Not only am I a redneck, I'm married into rednecks. I'm married into world-class rednecks. My wife and her entire family are from the great state of Louisiana. So, don't guess we have anybody from Louisiana here, right? Really? Seriously? Are you kidding? What do you think about this electricity? This is not minutes. Different colors and everything. I really didn't expect somebody from Louisiana. What part of Louisiana? Alexandria. Yeah, my wife is from New Orleans, and I kid Louisiana, but you'll back me up. Greatest food on the planet Earth, as long as you don't ask too many questions. Because as long as there's a ditch on the side of the road, nobody is going hungry in Louisiana. And you'll back me up on this, because my wife's from New Orleans, as I said, but she's got all these cousins from Thibodeau and Bunkie, all those Cajun places. You've seen swamp people? That's my wife's relatives. 27 of them came to our house last Thanksgiving. I didn't understand a word they said all weekend. The kids were like, "Hey, Mr. Jim, you think it'd be all right to go out there the outside of the house, this here, go in the back drawer, get a robe? You think I'd be all right with you there, huh?" Okay. An hour later, my wife's like, "Did you tell them they could jump off the garage roof?" I might have. I have no idea what they're saying. But boy, they brought some great food with you. I'd be sitting there at the table going, "Man, this is delicious. What is it?" They were like, "You don't want to know. You put your little more hot sauce on and keep chewing there, city boy." I'm like, "Come on, give me a clue. Does it swim? Does it fly? Maybe it do and maybe it don't. You just keep eating." I saw him hit boiling pots with a wooden spoon going, "Get back in there right now." And my wife has all these cousins up in the northern part of the state, up around Shreveport. Several years ago, they had this pretty bad flooding there, and so we were watching it on the news. You know, we were concerned, and I said to my wife, I said, "You wait, before the story's over, CNN will go find the biggest idiot they can locate." I said, "They're going to show somebody walking chest deep in water right through the middle of town." And they did. And it was my wife's cousin, Danny. But not only was Danny walking chest deep in water, he was holding an umbrella. I'm looking at my wife going, "That has got to make you proud right there. That's your bloodline on national television." I gave her so much grief about that until it occurred to me this woman and I had children together. Lord, knowing what I know about my family and knowing what I know about hers, it made me worry about our offspring. Because you mix stagnant pond water with raw sewage, you ain't getting Evian.
Would you welcome Jeff Foxworthy? Jeff.
Boy, this kind of caps off the perfect day being back here today. I had the greatest day today. The sun was shining, the birds were singing, the Victoria's Secret catalog came in the mail. A free home-delivered catalog of women in their underwear. God bless America right here. I knew it was coming, too, because the mail was about 3 hours late, you know. Have you seen this thing? Some of this stuff is so skimpy, Victoria doesn't have a whole lot of secrets left. You give a couple of guys one of these catalogs, we're fascinated. Oh, Mike, come here, look at this. That has got to hurt like hell right there. Like wearing a big string. Seems like every time you bowl, just cut you right in two, you know what I'm saying? And don't get me wrong, I'd much rather look at the catalog at home than to go into the store. I mean, because if you're a guy, you do feel like a pervert when you're in the Victoria's Secret store. You feel like the girls behind the counter have the sex offender catalog and they're just trying to match your picture out.
Sally, look at the guy with the panties on his head. That is the same guy.
I learned something in the new catalog, too. Victoria's Secret makes men's underwear now. See, I didn't know that. Well, see, my only thought is, please, dear God, keep it simple. Nothing fancy, nothing like those teddies, that combination bottom and top. Can you see men dealing with this? Look, Frank, I'm not saying it ain't pretty, all right? I just wouldn't wear it fishing if I was you. I tried that last month, spent the whole day just cast and tug. Cast and tug. See, and I think my wife is as pretty as anybody in the catalog. Of course, now, she doesn't think so. You know, beautiful girl, you hear her describe herself, it sounds like bearded goat woman from hell. If she looked like that, I'd chain her up in the garage, charge $3 for people to look at her. Now stand back, this is scary stuff, I'm not kidding. That is my wife. Now give me the money. See, but she's smarter than I am because she takes so long to get ready, but no matter how late she's running, she knows how to keep me running just as late. This is her best trick right here. When she's putting on this eye stuff, I have no idea what this is, but look. You're not wearing that, are you? No, I ain't wearing this. Just what I'm wearing while you're getting ready. Well, see, being a man, we have no idea what's wrong with it. We'll try on everything we can find. What about this, baby? A sweater and a bathing suit. What do you think about this? Hold on, I got more. I'll be back. See, and you got to watch out, too, guys, because women will get rid of your clothes when you're not looking. My wife just gave my favorite shirt to the Salvation Army because she said it was out of style. Which is ridiculous because I was watching Bewitched last week and Larry Tate had on one just like... Me. As little as men know about fashion, girls, you still ask our opinion about stuff. We'll be ready to walk out the door. My wife will say something like, honey, which earrings look better with this, the white ones or the black ones? I'm like, oh, boy, I got a 50-50 shot at this. I'll say the white ones. The white ones? Now I've got to change this blouse. Never leave this. Well, see, I mean, men just don't care as much. Yeah, you never see a guy picking up his buddy to go fishing at 5 o'clock in the morning going, dang, Bill, you ain't gonna wear that shirt with them shoes, are you? It's after Labor Day, for crying out loud. We don't do that. See, and I do believe the sexes are equal, I just don't think they'll ever be the same. Like, great example. Say a guy gets a phone call from a friend of his. He hadn't talked to him in a while. A man will answer the phone and say something like, hello? Wally, you ugly old bald-headed pervert. Where are you, idiot? But you never see women go, hello? Janet, you fat pig. And talking about friends, and women know this, men are like little kids. You can't let us out to play with our friends because we never come back when we're supposed to. Oh, you get 2 or more men together, we can't tell time anymore. Baby, we'll be back by 5:30, 5:45 at the latest. And then we come rolling in like February. See, men know our friends are going to get us in trouble. That's why they're our friends. I mean, you ask a female to describe a friend, you get an answer like, oh, she's the best. You need to talk to somebody. She is always there. You ask a guy to describe a friend, you're going to get something like, oh, he's a great friend. He'll come get you out of jail at 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, it's not really true, because if he was a great friend, his butt would be in jail with you. Sitting on a cot, smoking a cigarette, going, she didn't look like no cop, did she?
And that's where my wife and I are in life right now. Is we got our kids grown, got them out of the house, we had a quick snack, now we're raising our parents. I swear they passed each other in the driveway. And let me tell you something, I thought teenagers were crazy. Teenagers are a piece of cake compared to old people. They're nuts. I was getting my car serviced a while back, and they called to say it was ready. I called my father-in-law. I said, hey, can you give me a ride to the car dealership? On the way to the dealership, he needed to stop for gas. I learned on that little stop that it is possible to wash your entire car with the squeegee from the gas station. And I know this because I sat in the passenger seat and watched him do it. Well, I sat there until the guy at the next pump started videoing it. Then I slid down in the floorboard because I didn't want to get tagged on Instagram. He got back in the car. I said, you do realize the gas station has got a car wash right there? He goes, yeah, well, that's $6. I'm like, so to save $6, you gave away all your dignity and washed your car with a squeegee and the dirtiest water on the planet Earth. And I miss my youth. I miss my young body. I would not trade my old mind and soul for it, but I do miss my young body. I remember being a little kid and having energy to burn. When was the last time you had excess energy you needed to burn off? But think about it, when you were a kid, you had so much energy, you couldn't watch TV just sitting in a chair. You had to stand on your head or be half on the chair and half off, and the commercial would come on and you'd wrestle with each other until the show came back. Hell, if you walked in my house now and you found me watching the TV with my butt on the sofa and my head on the floor, call 911. Because even if I am still alive, there's no way I'm going to be able to get back into a standing position by myself. But you know who's smart? And Doc, back me up. Is kids are smart. I mean, that's why the fifth graders show work. Kids today, they're so much smarter than we were. I remember my oldest daughter, when she turned 5, she wanted a computer. She's 5 years old. We get a computer. She can use it. I mean, 5 years old. Remember what we got when we turned 5? Little wooden paddle, rubber band, red ball on the end of it. That was a brain builder, wasn't it? 1, 2, 3. You'd hit it about 4 times, the rubber band would snap, the ball would fly across the room, break something, you get a spanking with a paddle. No wonder we turned out this way. It's a different age. It's like my daughters, every toy they ever got had some tag in it showing you somebody had inspected it to make sure there was no possible way a child could hurt themselves playing with that toy. Hell, I remember being 9 years old, my parents bought me a wood-burning kit. Oh, what could possibly go wrong with a toy like that? A sharp metal stick that heated up to 5,000 degrees. And let me tell you something, our dogs and cats didn't have a little tag around their neck, but everybody in the neighborhood knew who they belonged to. Yeah, the Circle F brand, that's a Foxworthy cat right there, right? Who had a wood-burning kit? Probably a lot of guys. Remember how long the cord was, the little curly cord? The cord was about that long. So you're always guaranteed to be in right next to the drapes while you played with it. Did anybody have the swing set? My parents were too lazy to actually dig a hole in the ground, go buy a bag of concrete and pour it in. So we had a swing set. Anytime you swung above this high, the legs of it would go whoom, whoom, whoom. There were stuntmen that would not swing on our swing set. And I'm pretty sure my dad had a few beers the day he put it together. Because at the top of the sliding board, there was this big bolt. And I'm sure it was supposed to have gone from the inside out. But ours went from the outside in. And every summer, every kid in the neighborhood had a pencil-thin scab from their ankle all the way up the back of their hiney. Think back to the toys, lawn darts. Lawn darts, 12-pound darts. You could kill an elk with a lawn dart. And there were no directions. They came in a box of 8. We used to pull them out of the box, throw them straight up in the air. You catch one of those with your head, you're getting coloring books for Christmas the rest of your life. And to this day, my mom gets upset if she sees me take a sip out of a beer. But when I was a child, she bought me model airplane glue by the bags full. I'm in my room trying to build models. I'm higher than AC/DC on the opening night of a new tour. Finally get the model put together, then my dad would give us firecrackers to blow them up with. And we knew they were safe because we had to drive across the state line to buy them from a man that had 3 fingers. Not on each hand, total 3 fingers. That's a good firecracker right there. You'll like that one. This guy can't operate a Bic lighter, but he's a demolitions expert. You see a lot of things in airports. You know, they tell us now the economy's bad. You see it in the airports. Because everywhere we go now, all the rental car places are selling the used rental cars. And I have driven some bad vehicles in my life. I have never been so desperate for an automobile, I wanted a used rental car. Because you know what people do to rental cars. My mother will not drive 55 miles an hour. You put her in a rental car, she's doing donuts in the grocery store parking lot. Buying a used rental car is kind of like going to a house of ill repute looking for a wife. Anything that's been driven that hard by that many people, you really don't want to put your key in it.
Well, there's no incentive to take care of a rental car because if you pay the extra insurance, you can total that rental car and they'll bring you another one. And I recommend always get the additional insurance. They're like, Mr. Foxworthy, would you like the additional coverage? I'm like, yes, I would. Because you got a Ford Fiesta that's about to see more airtime than a skateboard at the X Games. And not only am I a redneck, I'm married into them too. Married into a special breed of them. My wife and her entire family are from the great state of Louisiana. We were down there about 6 or 7 months ago. My wife's cousin got married down in Baton Rouge, so we went down for the wedding. And we had my wife's entire family together for the rehearsal dinner at Hooters. If I'm lying, I'm dying. And our waitress that night was qualified to work there. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure she was on a scholarship. But the first time she walked up to the table, my wife's Uncle Bud looked at her and went, woo, woo, where'd you get them things, girl? I thought, oh, she's gonna get mad. And she didn't, she was so cool. She said, I bought them. And then Bud's wife, Lois, said, you know, I've been thinking about buying me some. And Bud turned to Lois and said, you are 62 years old. You getting a boob job would be like hanging a new chandelier in a haunted house. She said, well, I figured if I put some new lights in the house, you might stay in it longer than 2 minutes. But in conclusion, let me share one comedy road story with you about me. So, COVID started in 20, right? 2020. So the summer of 2019, Larry, the cable guy, and I were doing a bunch of dates together that summer. And when you do summer dates, they're almost all outside. You're either doing amphitheaters or country music festivals or, you know, fairs. You're always outside and you get used to being hot. We did a music festival in Phoenix. It was 112 when we went on stage. And the promoter was trying to make us feel better. He goes, come on, fellas, it's a dry heat. I said, so is the electric chair. It's 112 degrees, you know. So, but I don't sweat very much. I mean, you can say I don't sweat when I'm up here. And so we do this show one night in the South. I'm not even going to say the name of the city because there may be a computer genius here that can get the footage of this. But we did a show one night, and it was not only hot, it was humid as rip. So 10 minutes in the show, I got sweat dripping off my nose onto the stage. 20 minutes in, looks like a wet T-shirt contest. By the end of it, I look like I've been sprayed with a fire hose. I've never sweated this much in my life. And we usually don't eat before a show because it makes you feel kind of sluggish, so we're always hungry, you know, when we get off stage. So I get off stage that night, and I'm in the dressing room, and I'm just pounding Gatorade and water trying to rehydrate. And I hear Larry, the cable guy, coming down the hall, and he slides into my dressing room. He's like, hey, let's go eat. And Larry says this a lot. And I usually go because it's fun to watch Larry eat. It's impressive. But I said, dude, I said, not tonight. I said, I got too hot. I'm not hungry. I said, I'm just going back to the hotel and going to bed. He's like, yeah, right. Come on, let's go eat. I said, no, I'm not hungry. I got too hot. I'm not kidding with you. He goes, are you serious? He goes, I cannot wait till you ask me to do something for you. What are you, 9 years old? You know, it's not personal. I got too hot. I'm not hungry. So I got in the van. I got him to take me back to the hotel and got in my room. And probably a lot of y'all make your living on the road. You have your little routine. When I'm on the road, I like it really dark when I sleep. I like it really cold, so I'll turn the thermostat down. But when you're doing stand-up, you're in a different city every night. Every hotel room is different than the day before. So one of my tricks is I always turn the light on in the bathroom, and I'll shut the door. But that way, if I wake up in the middle of the night and I have to go, I can see that light. I know that kind of orients me, and I know where I am. And I usually sleep in my underwear, but this night they're wet. My socks are wet. I've sweated that much, and I'm like, I'm not sleeping in wet underwear, and I told you I only packed 3 pairs, you know, so
So I just peel them off and I flop in the bed naked and I'm out. Well, I wake up about 1:30 in the morning and I really have to pee, probably from all the Gatorade and the water. And any guy over 40 knows what I'm talking about. You have to pee too much to go back to sleep. You know you can't go back to sleep, but you don't really want to wake up. You just want to get it done and get back in the bed. So I get up and got my eyes half open. I see the light and I walk in there. Well, as soon as the door closes, I realize I'm in the hall of a really nice hotel without a stitch of clothes on. And you want to wake up in a hurry, forget coffee. This is the way to do it right here. So I'm trying to think through it. Well, Larry's room was right across the hall from mine. And I'm thinking, thank God, I run over there and I'm knocking on the door and he's not answering. And all I can picture him peeking through the keyhole and laughing. But as I'm knocking on the door, I hear the elevator ding. And I'm like, okay, well, I got a 50-50 shot. They're either going to get off and go the other way, or they're going to get off and come towards me. And sure enough, these two Korean guys, they're talking with each other. They get off and they start walking right towards me. And I'm like, what do you do? What do you do? And I'm like, you act like nothing's up. That's what you do. So I start walking towards them. Literally past them in the hall. Hey, how you doing? And one of them said something, which I really hoped meant, wow, that was impressive. But when I looked it up on Translator, I found out it meant, did you see her mustache? So I know I can't get on the elevator. I know elevators have security cameras, and I'm thinking, where do I go? Well, at the end of the hall, they had that exit, for the stairwell, and I'm like, at least get out of the lighted hallway. So I jog down the rest of the hall, and I get in the stairwell, hoping there'll be like a trash can in there where I can take the trash bag out and wear it like over all of it. Get in the stairwell, no trash can, but at least I'm not in the lighted hallway. And as I'm trying to think through it, I noticed there's a couple of empty beer cans down in the corner. Well, the reason I got up in the first place was I had to pee. I have no idea how long I'm going to be locked out of my room, and I'm not proud of it, but I picked those cans up and I peed in them and I put them back. I felt horrible about it, but it was old Milwaukee, and I figure whoever cleans them up will go, yeah, that's old Milwaukee, all right. But it was a really nice hotel, and they had 24-hour room service. So my thought was, well, maybe somebody's left their room service tray outside their room, and I can get that big cloth napkin and wear it like a diaper, So I'm going down the stairwell, and every floor I'm opening the door and looking down the hall for a tray. And I get about 3 or 4 floors down. I hadn't found a tray yet, but somebody's left a couple of pizza boxes outside their room. Well, to me, it looks like a folded tuxedo sitting there. So I run down there, I get the pizza boxes, and I bring them back, and I go down the last 3 or 4 floors and never do find a room service tray. But by now, it's really late. It's like 2 in the morning, and I get to lobby level. Well, I can crack the door, and I can see almost the entire lobby. I don't see a soul. I don't hear anybody talking. I'm thinking, all you got to do is be brave for 20 seconds. I put 1 pizza box in the front, 1 in the back. Walk up to the desk, the lady's working there. As I go up, she looks up and she goes, can I help you? Yes, you can. I said, I have accidentally locked myself out of my room. Can I just get another key so I can get back in? She goes, do you have any identification? I said, I do, but it's in my other pizza box. I'm like, no, I locked myself out of my room. I got nothing. And she says, I need to talk to a manager. And she goes behind the wall, and I'm thinking, she's not calling a manager, she's calling the cops. But it's 2 in the morning, I'm naked with a pizza box in front of my junk, where am I gonna go? Yeah, so they had a bellhop stand, like a podium, and I got behind that, and I'm just waiting on her. Well, as I'm waiting, all of a sudden the front doors to the hotel open up, and in walks Larry the cable guy and our tour manager. And I'm like, thank you, God, here's answered prayer. So they walk across the lobby. Again, I'm naked holding a pizza box. Larry does not say, oh my gosh, buddy, what happened to you? He looked at me, he looked at the pizza box, he goes, I thought you said you wasn't hungry. Just been sitting down here naked eating pepperoni in the lobby, you know. I said, I locked myself out of my room. Well, about that time, here comes the front desk lady back, and now she's got a security guard with her. I said, Larry, I need you to do me a giant favor. I said, tell her who I am so I can get a key and get back in my room. And he looked at me. He looked at her. He goes, I have never seen him before in my entire life. And he got on the elevator and rode up. Thankfully, the security guard started laughing. He recognized both of us. He was one of the nicest human beings I've ever met in my life. He got the magic key. He rode up the elevator with me and the pizza boxes, and we went down the hall. He let me in my room. I said, wait here. I went in and got my wallet. I gave him a $100 bill. I said, thank you so much. Please never tell anybody about this. And now I'm telling y'all for free. But I got back in my room, I put my sweatpants on, put a t-shirt on, made sure I had that room key in my pocket, and I waited about 10 minutes, and I walked back across the hall and knocked on Larry's door. He opens the door, he's still laughing. He's like, he goes, I told you I couldn't wait until you asked me to do something for you. I said, all right, you got me. I said, are we even? He's like, yeah, we're even. I said, well, just to prove I don't have any hard feelings, I went and got you a beer. Thanks, y'all. God bless you. Thank you for being here. Think about the men in your life that you look at and you think, that's the kind of man I want to be. Might be an uncle, might be a grandfather. You know, I was lucky. I had a really good grandfather. Never told me he loved me, but I know he did because he took me everywhere he went after my dad left. But you look at the men in your life that you go, that's the kind of man I want to be. And I will be willing to bet you every single one of them was not a self-focused person. I bet every single one of them was others focused. They didn't think about what they wanted. They thought about what other people needed. I grew up in Hapeville down by the airport. I was really lucky. That was the only Chick-fil-A in the world for decades. Had no idea it would become the phenomenon it was. But I was lucky to grow up around Truett Cathy, who started Chick-fil-A. And Truett was one of the wisest men I ever met. And he used to ask me when I was a little kid, he would look at me and he'd go, Jeff, you know how to tell when somebody needs encouragement? I say, no, sir. He goes, if they're breathing. He goes, everybody needs encouragement. It doesn't cost you anything to give it to them. No schooling, no money. And so I learned at an early age, be an encourager. If you walk into a place and the homely little girl running the cash registers there go, oh, I love your hair. That's so pretty. Doesn't cost you a thing, made her day. Made her day that somebody saw her, that somebody noticed. And so my whole life, I'm like, crap, Mr. Cathy, that's a great thing. And what it does is it teaches you to see the good in things instead of the bad in things. You know, being a mental guy, when I get up in the morning, I pray two things to God. I'm like, A, let me put on the slippers of gratitude. Let me not take for granted that I have something to eat, that I got a house, that I got a bed, that I got a car. 5% of the people in the world own a car. If you own a car, you're in the top 5% of the world. Something like 11 billion people will never take a hot shower one day in their life. If you took a hot shower today, you beat those 11 billion people. And so you start looking at those blessings. You know, you start looking at a holly bush and go, why the holly bush had red berries? And God goes, I just did it because I thought you'd like it. They look real good against the green. Did that for you. And you start seeing blessings everywhere. That's what being an encourager does. You start seeing the good all around you and just realize just how lucky we are. We had no control over where we were going to be born. We had no control over what the color of our skin was going to be. We had no control over who our parents were going to be. But the fact that we live in this country and we're able to go out tonight and assemble and actually talk about the Creator, there's so many places in the world you can't do that. So we're blessed. We're really blessed. You know, here's the weird thing with kids. They're stinking smart. And it was real funny. Like, my life led me doing things that I never envisioned me doing. For decades, I worked with kids with cancer. My wife and I were the head fundraising people for the Duke Children's Hospital, and I did a ton of things with St. Jude's, and just loved working with kids with cancer. There's somewhere in here that makes me want to squeal. So I got invited one day. A guy invited me down to the Atlanta Mission. Well, I'd never been homeless. I never cared about homeless people. That's nasty. That's honest. My care of homeless people was if you came up to my car at the stop sign, here's $5, please go away. And I had a guy invite me to lunch at the Atlanta Mission. The first kid I met down there, 21 years old, in the heart of Atlanta, living at the Atlanta Mission. My first thought, if we're going to be authentic, is get out of here. You're 21 years old. You're healthy. Get a job. His name was Jason. Of course, being a comic and a writer, I want to know everybody's story. I said, Jason, what's your story? Why in the hell are you in a homeless mission? He said, well, it was my mom and dad and me and my brother. And when I was 11, my mom killed herself. He said 2 years after that, my brother killed himself. And it was me and my dad. We were doing pretty good. In my second year of college, my dad killed himself. And he said, I got to where I couldn't feel anything. I could not hurt anymore. So I started smoking crack and flunked out of school, lost a place to live, lost all my money, and I just couldn't hurt anymore. And I'm sitting across from him going, hell, I would have started smoking crack too. And all of a sudden you realize there, but for the grace of God, I'm in a homeless mission. And what I learned over the years, you know, people tend to view them as drug addicts or alcoholics, and a lot of them are. But that's the symptom. If you go back and find out the reason, so many of them had been molested, so many of them had been abandoned, so many of them had, some horrible trauma had happened to them early in life, and the hurt was so bad they couldn't deal with it, so they numbed. And so I asked the guy, I said, why'd you invite me down here? He goes, I want you to start a small group. There we go again, small group. He said, these guys have chapel a couple of times a week. They've never had a small group. And my dumb ass said yes, which is the only thing we can do for God is say yes when he whispers something to us. I said, and I did say to him, I said, there's almost 7 million people in Atlanta, and you can't find anybody more qualified to do this than me, you know. But I said yes. And I had to, when I first started going, I had to stop at Chick-fil-A and buy them chicken biscuits just to get them to come. I had to bribe them. And it started with me and 12 guys, and over the course of a dozen years, it grew to 32 group leaders and almost 300 homeless guys every Tuesday morning. I would get up at 5 o'clock, which was really hard for me because when you're a comic, you're doing a show late, and because I had kids, I would lease a plane. I spent so much money. I would fly home every night, no matter where I was on the road. If I was doing a show in Minnesota, I'd do it. I'd get back on that plane. I'd fly home. I'd land at PDK at 2. I'd go home. I'd get up at 6, and I'd take them to school. I went through like a decade without sleeping. But when I would do the missions on Tuesday morning, I had to get up at 5 because I had to be at Chick-fil-A at 6:30 and wait for them to unlock the door in order to be downtown by 7. So, and I did it forever. And one of my daughters told me not long ago, I never said anything to the kids about it. She said, Dad, she said, do you know what one of the pillars of my faith is? Is how, without saying anything about it, and I know you were dead tired and you got up at 5 o'clock and you would go get those biscuits and you would go down there and do Bible study with those guys. And she said, I just used to think if there's something that good that you felt that need to share it, that I need to delve into it deeper. So that just became one of the... So it's not just what you say. It's because if what you're saying is not what you're doing, it's hollow. It's what you do. You have to be a guy that lives it out.
I have a lot of guys will say to me, man, how you live with all those women? I love living with all those women because I've accepted the fact they just about have got me trained the way they want me. See, a lot of men go through their entire lives never realizing they're being trained. Guys, if you got a wife, a girlfriend, a mother, or a daughter, you are being trained. And just because they ain't using the cattle prod don't mean it ain't happening. I've been married 18 years to an awesome girl. It did not dawn on me until about year 5. She was training me, and I remember the night I realized it. We were both in bed reading one night, and my wife said, I'm hot. And I closed my book, got out of bed, walked over to the wall. I turned on the ceiling fan. I was almost back to the bed, and I went, whoa. I wasn't hot. And I guarantee you the next morning she called her mother and said, Mama, it is working so well. Last night all I had to say was I'm hot, and he got out of bed and turned on the ceiling fan. And I'm sure her mother said, baby, I am so proud of you. Oh, I'd put your daddy on the phone and let you tell him, but I just said I'm hungry, and he ran into town to get me something to eat. Guys, do you know why they are able to train us? They are smarter than us. Oh, it ain't that big a deal. That's saying you're smarter than a creature that every time it takes off its underwear, it tries to grab them with its toes, flip them in the air, and catch them with its hand. You are smarter than that. It is a good feeling when you catch them on the first try, though, isn't it? Got my underpants right there. When the girls were little, I had latches on cabinets to keep them out of the dishwashing detergent. My parents gave my brother and I a chemistry set. My Mom, Joey put ammonium sulfate in my eye. Tell him I said stop. You boys go play with the wood-burning kid. Better yet, go outside, get on the mini bikes, and shoot the BB guns. Just a different world. Even the way we treat our kids' pets has totally changed. My daughters had this hamster, little white hamster. His name was Herman. And one day Herman's hair started falling out. A lot. And my wife got very concerned, and she said, you know, I think we need to take Herman to the vet. I said, baby, Herman cost $5. Perhaps it's time we let Herman loose out in the woods. Born free. And she started getting mad at me. And I said, let me tell you something. I said, when I was growing up, there was no chance. We had a $5 pet that was going to see the inside of a veterinarian's office. Very few of our pets went to the veterinarian. You know what happened to our pets? They ran away. I remember one time my brother and I found this dog. We brought him home, and the dog barked all night long for the first 3 nights we had him. Then on the 4th day, while we were at school, he ran away. We had a cat that started climbing my mother's curtain. She ran away. I remember having goldfish that ran away. But my wife said, oh no, Herman is our pet. He's our responsibility. I'll take him to the vet. And she did. She took the $5 hamster to the vet. And $65 later, Herman's hair is still falling out. Herman looked bad. Herman looked like Edgar Winter on Rogaine. Yeah. And I said, $65? Hon, we could have bought 13 new Hermans for $65. I said, when your medical bills are 13 times what you're worth, either you are really, really cheap or you are really, really sick.
I said, put it this way. I said, let's say your grandma went to the doctor and they told her it was going to take $13 million to make her well. I said, you cannot look me in the eye and tell me there's not a chance we'd be calling the kids downstairs going, girls, sit down, we have some bad news. Meemaw has run away. People start to laugh at that one, and then they feel bad about it. Oh, because you picture your grandmother in the woods. Is anybody else cold? But they have a rule in my neighborhood. If you walk your dog and your dog does his business in somebody else's yard, you need to get a little plastic bag, pick it up, and dispose of it. And I know the dogs are confused. The dogs are like, wait a minute, you're taking it back home? Why did we have to walk 3 blocks? I could have pooped in the living room, saved us both some embarrassment. What a stupid rule. Why would they have us pick it up? It's fertilizer. It makes the grass grow. Lord, it's not like some child is going to step in it. A kid hadn't played in the yard since 1982. You know what's sad? We have an entire generation that has no idea how to get dog poop off the bottom of their shoe. But when I was growing up, we played in the yard every day, and every day somebody stepped in dog poop. And when it was your turn, you knew what to do about it. You would hobble over to the curb and scrape the biggest part off on the edge of the curb. Then you would find a puddle and you would swirl the bottom of your shoe around in the puddle. Then limp over to the grass and do the brush stroke back and forth. Then you would find a little bitty piece of stick and you would sit down on the curb and you would pick it out of the zigzag pattern on the bottom. Then you wore those shoes to church the next day. And nobody in that church knew you'd stepped in dog poop. See, when it comes to technology, my wife and I laugh about this because we're in our mid-50s and my wife says we are the bologna in the technology bologna sandwich. We're right in the middle because our parents can't text and our children can't write. My kids don't even think you need to study. They're like, Dad, if you want to know something, you just Google it. And to a point, they're right. I mean, when I was growing up, if you were watching TV and somebody said, what was that guy in? You'd go, well, he looks familiar. That was it. Now you're watching TV, somebody goes, what was that guy in? Somebody goes, he was the janitor on Joey. Of course he was. But I try to tell my kids, I said, yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can learn from Google. I said, but there's just as much stuff you can't learn from Google. You only learn it from life experience. You'll usually learn most of it the hard way. It's stuff that's not Googleable. I don't know if that's a word. But I call them the facts of life. It's stuff you can't Google. Like this, fact of life. If you are trying to get to the bathroom in an emergency situation, it is not a wise idea to unbutton your pants in transit trying to save a couple of seconds. Because the muscles that guard the floodgates will interpret the unbuttoning as the signal to abandon their post, and the 2 seconds you saved on the button are nullified by the hour and a half you spend mopping and doing laundry. You only learn that the hard way. Fact of life. If you are going to see a scary movie at the movie theater, it will be much more entertaining if you can find a seat directly behind a group of black women. Because not only will you get the scary movie, you will also get their running commentary of the scary movie. Oh, look at this. She running around in her panties like that. Girl, put some drawers on. And put that hair up before he snatched that weave out your head. Now, can you see this girlfriend? She going back in the house. No, she going down to the basement. Girl, get your shit and get out there now. Fact of life, women always have more questions than men have answers to. Great example of this. 6-7 months ago, I get a text one day. The text says, please pray for Tom. He was in a bad wreck. I walk into the kitchen where my wife is. I said, hey, I just got a text that said, please pray for Tom. He was in a bad wreck. She said, was he driving? I said, I don't know. I just got a text that said, please pray for Tom. He was in a bad wreck. Were Carol and the kids in the car with him? I don't know. I just got a text that said, please pray for Tom. He was in a bad wreck. Were the people in the other car hurt? I don't know. I just got a text that said, please pray for Tom. He was in a bad wreck. What hospital did they take him to? I don't know. I just got a text that said, please pray for Tom. He was in a bad wreck. She said, well, you don't know anything. What do you know? I know you need to pray for Tom. I just got a text, said he was in a bad wreck. That's all I got. I ain't holding anything back. That's it. People pointing at each other here. You realize the power of prayer, and I know it firsthand in my life because not long ago, my mother's flip phone finally broke. We've been praying for that 14 years, so don't give up. Things will happen on God's time. And so we ended up getting my 86-year-old mother her very first iPhone. And if you were to say to me tonight, hey Jeff, would you rather teach your mother how to text or teach your dog how to wipe his butt? I would say, hand me the toilet paper. Let's give that a shot. Teaching my 86-year-old mother to text has been a little bit of a challenge. And my daughters, bless their heart, they're texting her, trying to encourage her and everything. And she called me not long ago. She goes, I have a question. I said, what is it, Mom? She goes, what is low? I said, Mom, I have no idea what you're talking about. She said, Jules sent me a text, and at the end of it, it said low. I said, how you spell it, Mom? She said, LOL. I said, that's not low. I said, that's laugh out loud. I said, what young people do, since they text so much, instead of typing everything out, they'll just use the initials. So IDK is I don't know, OTW is on the way. I said, that's how they do it. Oh. A few weeks ago, I get a text one night from my mother. IYGTTGSINSK. I'm like, oh God, Mom's had a stroke. I called her up, I said, Mom, I said, what did you just text me? She said, I was doing like the girls do. I said, if you go to the grocery store, I need some ketchup. Well, of course you did. Why didn't I see that? But you know, with my comedy, people always ask, where do you come up with stuff? And I don't look for stuff. I assume if I think something, or my wife says something, or my family does something, other people are thinking and saying and doing the whole thing. And then COVID hit, and I went 2.5 years without getting to do this at all. And I really missed it. I miss traveling. I grew up in Hapeville, Georgia. I'd never been anywhere through comedy. I've been to all 50 states. And my wife will cherry pick my gigs and decide where she wants to go. And then all of a sudden we didn't go anywhere for a couple of years, and she really missed the travel. So when it became evident we weren't going to go anywhere, my wife ordered like 4 or 5 travel magazines, and she was kind of living vicariously through them. So one night I'm sitting around the house and I'm flipping through one of those magazines, and I saw an article in there that was written by a woman trying to teach other women how to pack for a 10-day trip using only a carry-on suitcase. Let me repeat that. A woman packing for 10 days using only a carry-on suitcase. And I thought, what woman is she talking about? Barbie? My wife couldn't pack for a nudist colony in a carry-on suitcase. And now the airport only lets you take one carry-on. Well, if I'm with my wife, she has two, and I have whatever I can fit in my pockets. But I thought it was interesting because we live in a world where people try to make everything you say sexist. I thought the article was interesting because it was only written to women. She didn't say men. Because I think men could you do 10 days in a carry-on? I could. You might be burning the socks and the underwear, but I could do it. Because I think most men pack like I do. This is the way I pack. I go in my closet and I think, okay, I'm going to be out 3 days. 3 days means 3 pairs of socks, 3 pairs of underwear, 3 shirts, another pair of blue jeans in case I spill something on these, toothbrush, razor blade, ready to go. 10 seconds of well thought out packing. That's how I pack. Now, when I go on vacation with my wife, and let me say this up front, I love being on vacation with my wife. Because my wife is a lot more friendly on vacation than she is at home. Something about having numbers on the door improves her attitude. Same woman that won't look at me twice at home, you get numbers on the door, she is hanging the trapeze before the bellhops to the ice machine. Love being on vacation with this girl. It's getting to vacation that is the problem. Because it takes her longer than 10 seconds to pack. In fact, it takes her days to pack. And I finally figured out why. It's because she has outfits. Not a man in this room has an outfit. My wife's got an outfit for the airport. This is my airport outfit. Doesn't bind, doesn't cling. Shoes are easy on, easy off through security. I love this airport outfit. She has an outfit picked out for every single day we are going to be gone, plus additional outfits in case we go out somewhere nice to dinner. She's got sleepwear, swimwear, exercise wear, lounge around wear. So there's a ton of clothes that have a shot at making her vacation team. So what she will do is about 3 days before we're supposed to leave, she'll start pulling clothes out. And she'll lay them on the bed like flat Stanley mannequins. And she just stares at them. Sometimes she'll call me and come here and need your help. Okay, I am down to these 2 outfits. Which one do you like the best? One on the left. Are you kidding me? What's wrong with the one on the right? There's nothing wrong with it. I like that one on the left. I knew I shouldn't have called you. I love the one on the right. You know what? Now that I really think about it, I love the one on the right. No, you don't. You're just saying that. Now I don't know what to do. I know what to do. I'm going to go jump in front of a bus. Why don't you stand here and stare at this for a while? See, because with me, once my clothes are packed, I'm packed. With my wife, the clothes, that's just the foundation. Her packet, it's like an archaeological dig. There's many, many layers to it. Because once she has the clothes picked out, now she has to go back and pick out the jewelry that goes with each particular outfit. These ladies are like, yes, she does. If you watch court TV, that's what they call the jewelry selection process. Next level is the shoes. He just got the jewelry selection process. I can take as much time as you need, honestly. The shoes take a long time. She spends longer picking shoes for vacation than we spent picking names for our children. I mean, my wife loves shoes. I hope to God she never has to choose between me and her shoes. Because I can see the surgeon going, well, Miss Foxworthy, we can save Jeff's life. But in order to do it, you would have to get rid of all of your shoes. He said he wants to be cremated. I'm gonna need some new shoes for that ceremony. Next level is the electronics, because one time we went somewhere and the hotel didn't have a hairdryer. Well, that was a world crisis. So now my wife never packs a suitcase without packing a hairdryer. But then she'll pack a hair curler and a hair straightener. I'm like, they cancel each other out. Then she packs that lighted makeup mirror where one side has 12 times magnification. Nobody needs to look at their face magnified 12 times. At 12 times magnification, a wrinkle looks like an irrigation ditch. A blackhead looks like a manhole cover. And God forbid she find a chin hair. You're not getting a girl out of the room that sees something on her chin that looks like the anchor rope to a battleship. I'm telling you that right now. Do you know I've never ever looked at my face in the 12 times magnification mirror? All right, to be completely honest, a couple of times I did get out of the shower and I paused in front of it just for a minute. Buenos dias, señor enchilada grande. Next level, total feminine phenomena, is the just-in-case level. Like my wife will always pack a little raincoat and a travel umbrella just in case it rains. I'm like, baby, I checked the forecast. There's less than a 5% chance any day we're going to be there. Okay, fine. I don't know what you're going to do if it rains. I do. I'll probably go back inside. She always packs a sweater or a light jacket just in case it gets cold at night, as it so often does in Orlando in July. Anybody else have a wife or girlfriend that will, this is what my wife will do. She will take a little soft-sided collapsible suitcase and pack it inside of the hard-sided suitcase, just in case I buy something. And I've never looked in that soft-sided suitcase. I'm willing to bet there's a smaller soft-sided suitcase inside of it. She'll always pack like a gallon Ziploc bag full of medicine just in case somebody gets sick. One time I'm playing in Buffalo. It's like February. They had snow up to here. I have a little bit of a headache. I go and zip the medicine bag. We've got malaria pills. Thankfully missed the great malaria outbreak in Buffalo. And I said, baby, I love you to death. I said, this is where your packing just goes off the rails. So the next time we're getting ready to go on vacation, I walk in the bedroom and I caught her rooting through my suitcase. And she goes, uh-huh. She pulls out a 5-pound bag of oats, holds it up. She goes, what is this for? I said, oh, that. I said, that is just in case the 2 donkeys we're going to need to carry your luggage get hungry while we're gone. And actually, she packs light for airline travel as opposed to if we go on vacation in the car. Now, if we go on vacation in the car, there's a fine line between packing and moving. But my wife and daughters, they think it is their job to fill that SUV to the top. And the way they pack would make a man lay on the floor and wet himself. They will bring out a bag with bread and potato chips, put it on the bottom, then put 3 suitcases on top of it. I'm like, let me do this, please. Because men care about, there's an art to packing a car, isn't there? Total art. My daddy could get a house full of furniture into the trunk of a Buick. Hold the jack, hand me the piano. I got this son of a gun, you know. And I'm like my daddy too. Once I get that car packed the way I like it, I'm ready to go. Not my wife. I'll walk in the house like, all right, car's packed, let's do it. Oh, we can't go yet. What do you mean we can't go? Car's packed, let's go. No, I got to straighten up the house. Do what?
Well, I'm not going to be able to have a good time if I know I'm going to be coming back to a messy house. Why didn't you straighten it up the last couple of days? Because I had to pack. Which in a nutshell is why men die before women. Because we want to.